What's up, guys? This is Adi with Dios International, and I am here just for a little quick update, just to catching the pulse of the club here. Sorry that we were not able to do a live show on Sunday. Everyone here was either sick, birthdays and families, various obligations, so we couldn't get a live together, and especially since there was no game, it was pretty difficult. But anyway, I'm here, gonna just do a quick update for things and talk about the club, talk about what's going on, and take a pulse on what's been going on now that the regular season is over and Europe is over. But before we move on, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. We are growing all over the place here. YouTube is growing. We're on our way to 7,000 subscribers. If you're tuning in for the first time, consider following us. If you like what you hear here, if you like the content, we have plenty to offer you. Help us continue to grow the red and white community. And for those of you that are listening right now, take a quick second, that like button. It costs you nothing, but it means everything to us in our quest to continue to grow the red and white family. Follow us on socials as well if you don't already. We have less than 70 followers to go for 14,000 on Instagram. Huge for us. And we're less than 25 away from 13,000 on Facebook. Crazy stuff, crazy things. And then if you're listening to this on audio, whether it's Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review. That also helps us continue to find even more red and white fans on that platform. You can also check us out on Patreon if you want to support the project even further. $1 a month gets you access to the WhatsApp group where we share information that we do not share on social media. This includes transfer information, things like that. We share all of that with the Patreon group first before any of it gets vetted and then shared to social media. So come join us, join the Patreon chat. There's always action no matter where you are in the world and what time it is. Now, a couple of quick announcements before we get into the content for today. First thing, regarding the 100-year anniversary jersey, guys, we have gotten so many messages about this. It's a terrible situation. We know. The only thing that we can tell you guys is to wait for club announcements. Go to redstore.gr if you can, refresh, just see if they have any availability. It's very difficult. There was not enough supply for the demand, so now we just have to wait for the small batch shipments. Just wait for the club to give updates regarding the situation and availability of the jerseys. That's all we can tell you guys. We're all still waiting for jerseys as well. We're trying to order them too, so we're all in the same position. Any information we get, we will pass on for you. It sucks, and everybody wants these, but just have to wait for announcements from the club, or if we get any information, we will gladly pass that on. The Olympiacos U19 won the Greek Cup quarterfinal against Aris, and they beat them 3-0. They will go on to face Volos in the semifinals of the Greek Cup for the U19. The boys are doing fantastic this season. We had a little stat about them. They're doing great work. They are also in the UEFA Youth League. The next stage of that, at the quarterfinals for that, they're going to be playing against another Austrian side, Red Bull Salzburg. The boys still have a chance to win the treble this year. Repeat the UEFA Youth League if it's possible. They can win the Greek Cup and win the title. They're in a good position to do that. So great for them, especially considering they're without 5 of the stars from the team last year. Incredible work from our U19s. Some developments also on the women's football side. Guys, if you remember, back in mid-January, Olympiacos had announced that it was finally creating a women's football team that would be competing in Ethniki. That's the 3rd division in Greece. And they would be competing next season for that. At the time of recording, the club announced yesterday that Kostadina Milona is the new general manager for the women's football program. So Kostadina Milona has a very nice resume. She has played all over the place in women's football, and she even played beach football as well. So we're really excited to have her. We're really excited that she's joining the red-white community, and we have another team that's going to compete for silverware for Olympiacos. So yet another team that we can support as red-white fans, and we're really hoping that this encourages more women to join the red-white community, whether it's as fan or athletes. there's yet another reason to now follow Olympiacos and join the Olympiacos family. So we hope this encourages more women to join us and support our favorite club, Olympiacos. Now, the last thing before we get on and talk about the state of the club, Daniel Podence was at the Olympiacos versus Panathinaikos EuroLeague match, a match which has now created so much stir over the Portuguese winger's return to the club. Please do not do this to yourself. Daniel Podence shared images of the Conference League final, winning it, shared images of Olympiacos all summer just so that he could go to Saudi Arabia. And then later do an interview saying he was never coming back to Olympiacos because he did everything he could in Europe. It is more likely that the coverage of his appearance at CEF will be used by George Mendes to swindle a new deal out of the Saudis than it is for him to return. So do not do this to yourself. I would love for Daniel Podence to come back. I would absolutely love it. But this fan base, if they continue like this, is going to create an issue where there is none. I would love for the guy to come back, but right now he is enjoying his time in Saudi Arabia. He's making a lot of money playing there. There is no sign that he is going to come back here. It would be fantastic if he did, but please do not listen to anything that says otherwise. There are some issues with the non-PIF controlled clubs in Saudi Arabia. So there is potential, of course, always for a return, but do not do this just because he showed up at CEF. You guys are going to drive yourselves insane. That is my little piece of advice regarding the Daniel Podence situation. Now, moving forward, the reason I wanted to do something and just kind of record something briefly is with the international break upon us, playoffs are starting at the end of the month. It's a good time to kind of reflect where the club is this season. The guys did a live show after Bodo Glimt, after we beat them in the second leg, but failed to progress. They kind of talked about the game, where they thought the team was. And I really wanted to kind of go into the outlook of the season and the team and really talk about what our expectations were and how we've done so far since then, since the start of the season. So let's go back to the beginning of the season when I talked about my expectations and goals for this season. And I want to do this because a vast majority of the fans, of course, are very positive, as they should be, very positive into what's going on for this season. But there is a very vocal minority that seem to be as negative as ever. At the beginning of the Conference League win, I had laid out my own personal expectations for what the club was. And while maybe some of those expectations have been met, I understand why this vocal minority was a little bit more negative. But we're going to kind of break this down and talk about where the disappointments are in various aspects, but where our expectations were initially. So in the beginning of the season, I had said very clearly, and we had talked about this on multiple shows while the transfer season was going. And I had said I wanted to win the title. 100-year anniversary, I expected then, as I still do, that we need to win the title after 2 seasons, after some very chaotic times at the club. We needed to win. The club also communicated this. The club has said that this was the priority. The priority was to win the title this season. And as things are right now, going into the playoffs, we are in a pretty good position for it. +7, still have 6 derbies to go. 6 derbies are separating us from not only the 48th title, but potentially a ticket directly to the league phase in Champions League. Remember, right now, we are in pole position to get a wild card spot for direct entry to the league phase of the Champions League. Winning that second leg against Bodo, even though we didn't qualify for the quarterfinals, winning that second leg put our club's coefficient against Dinamo Zagreb. Dinamo Zagreb right now is 5 points behind, but if they had won their league before the Bodo game, they would have taken that wild card spot from us. Now, it doesn't matter what they do in the league. Our club coefficient is higher than theirs, so we get the wild card spot as long as we win the league. Of course, there's a couple of exceptions. If Aston Villa wins the Champions League, if Dortmund wins the Champions League, or if Bodo wins 4 and draws one of their next 5 matches, basically playing perfectly almost, then we would lose that immediate seed into the Champions League phase. But we have pretty good odds. As long as we win the league, we will get that direct entry into the Champions League phase. Now, I went on a little tangent there, but you get the picture. The first priority is to win the league for the 100-year anniversary. And right now we're on track for this. About as good as we can expect. Check. Now let's talk about Europe. At the beginning of the year, with Europa League phase, direct entry because we won the Conference League, I and of course my co-host, we kind of took stock of our historical performance in this competition. We talked about how the club had kind of fallen, how things hadn't looked good for a few years, and we talked about what we as fans expect for the Europa League. Now, for me, my expectation, I looked at our historical performance. We had never gone past the round of 16 for Europa League. So for me, the expectation I had was that the club would go back to that point. At the very least, we needed to go back to the round of 16 of Europa League to know that we were back where we left off before the downhill spiral the club went into, and something that we could build on in the future. That was my expectation. We needed to at least get to the round of 16, which we did. We made it there. We hit that expectation. Sure, we didn't have to play a round of 32 tie or a playoff tie, as they're calling it now. We made it directly to the round of 16 via league phase. Whatever. We got there. We got to the point that was my expectation for this club. Now, let's park that expectation that we had from the beginning of the season. Let's talk about the opponent, Bodo Glimt. Am I disappointed that we lost to Bodo Glimt? Yes, absolutely. This is a team that we should have beaten. This is a team that we are better than. This is a club that we also have a higher coefficient than. So of course I'm disappointed that we probably our best chance to make a quarterfinal in our history with respect to the Europa League, we lost it to Bodo Glimt. But I am super proud of how this team fought without 2 extremely important pieces in that second leg, Ayub El-Kabi and Babis Kostulas. We didn't have those 2 players, and we were so close to actually being able to do this. A missed penalty really separated us from and of course allowing the only goal on target, or the only shot on target that Bodo had to kind of kill things for us. That's not much that separated us from performing a miracle here. So despite not progressing, this team really feels like it has something to it. It can do something in Champions League. We're in a better position to build something for Champions League and actually do well. So to sum it up, while I'm disappointed that we lost to the opponent, we met my initial expectation at the beginning of the season, and I, just like the majority of Olympiacos fans, really feel that we're on the road to something great with the core that's been built from this team. Now, the last priority for me at the outset of the beginning of the season was the Greek Cup. You guys have heard me. I had told you, I had said it even when Lambro and I talked about it on one of the live shows, that I really couldn't give 2 shits about the Greek Cup, especially in terms of priority. Like for me, it was league, then Europe, and then Greek Cup. Fine, as long as it's not infringing on the success of the first 2 things. Currently, we have a 6-0 lead going into the second leg against AEK. We've pretty much all but secured our finals berth. If we lost the final of the Greek Cup, if we were to lose it upcoming, whoever we play against, whether it's Ofi or Asteras, if we lose the final, but we won the Greek League, even with our round of 16, disappointment loss against Bodo Glimt, I'd still argue that this season was a success because we met the expectations that we had at the beginning of the season. Now, if we win the domestic double, I'd say we exceeded my expectations. Around this time last year, we had a discussion about the roster. So, here we have a potential for a double winning season. We still made the round of 16. Last year, we didn't have a lot of that to hold on to. We were hanging on to Conference League victory to salvage our season. We had 18 players that either had expiring contracts or loans that we had to worry about in the summer. That was literally almost a full roster of players that were not going to be there without some kind of action, but before the end of June. The club spent so much of the summer trying to bring back some of those loan players that we liked, renewing contracts of players whose contracts were expiring. I mean, that was that was literally a roster of players, almost a full roster of players that we had to save contracts for before thinking about other pieces we needed to add. If you look at the same situation now, our roster situation, we have 2 expiring contracts and 4 loans to worry about. That is a third of the variables of the existing squad that we have to deal with. That is way more manageable. Our expiring deals, we have Julian Biancon and Danny Garcia. Julian Biancon is a player that I know a lot of people want to see renewed. We actually put a poll on X about asking people who they want to renew, and most people said they wanted to renew. Look, Horta, Palma, Danny Garcia. Those were the names that people said they really wanted to. Some people disagreed about Biancon, but the vast majority of them said they would like Julian Biancon to be renewed. So Danny Garcia, there was news at the time of recording this morning that he's on the way to his renewal as well. He's somebody that, sure, maybe against the smaller Greek sides, he's not, because he's more of a 6, he's not as useful, but Danny Garcia has been great for us in Europe and in derbies as well. He's a very aggressive player, and he really can help you fight for in the midfield. This would be a great renewal, even at his age. 4 loans. Our 4 loans this year: Andre Horta, Marco Stamenic, Luis Palma, David Carmo. These are the only player in that loan list that pretty much everybody agrees they don't want back is Marco Stamenic. Probably the biggest disappointment for me so far in this season. But, Luis Palma, Andre Horta, the Portuguese press had, even in Braga's statement, they said it was an obligation to buy. If that's true, he'll likely be with us again next year. So we have only a handful of cases we have to deal with. David Karma, whether he stays at Forest or not. We have great depth at center back. We're not going to have so many holes to fill, even if we don't bring all these players back. It's a much more manageable situation. Then let's not forget, guys, we also have the returning UEFA Youth League winners from last year, the ones that have been loaned out. Guys like Isidros Koutsidis, who will surely be training this summer. Theofanis Bakulas, who's been playing over at Rio Ave. And then don't forget, Papa Canelos has still been playing in the U19s this season. He will surely be called up. He just signed a renewal as well with the club. He's a player that has great potential. Other issues that we have to worry about. So those 3 guys could join Mouzakitis and Kostulas, who are starters now at this club, could join them over the summer. Then we have the new kids on the block. We have a new group that could be considered for the summer. Guys like Stavros Pneumonides, who's a very, very, very interesting player, very interesting winger who's doing very well for the U19s in the youth league as well as domestically. Yusuf Tai, the Nigerian kid that we had gotten because his work permit didn't go through in for Forest. He's been doing very well. He's the leading goal contributor right now for the U19s. Paraskevas Plionis, Paschalis Tufakis, Argiris Liatsikouras. These guys are all great players who are doing well in the current U19 team under coach Romain Pitao that will be fighting like hell to get a chance and a shot this summer for this team. So unlike last season where so many things were up in the air and we knew that we had to include some people out of necessity, we have a nice core, a nice future of a product, a great collective of product coming out of the academy that we can continue to build around. It's a completely different situation. And really, guys, if we continue to develop and introduce them into the first team, we succeed in getting this Champions League berth. That extra money that we are getting from Champions League, the extra budget we'll have this summer can go to really spending for just a handful of quality players instead of having to worry about building a new roster. So as I begin to wrap things up here, I just want to make sure everyone has my point really clear in regards to this segment. This season, this team is set up in a much better way than it was last season. Last summer, the business that was done was a step in the right direction. Sure, we didn't get back Horta over the summer. We didn't get Costas Fortunis, who didn't want to come back. Daniel Podence, who didn't want to come back. We didn't have those guys back. But the way things were done this summer, the way we built the players that we put together, this team is better than the team was last season. It is more depth. Our business was done more methodically, more specific, with less bloat. And we removed almost 40 players that were just sitting around eating up wages. The fact that there's so many less financial burdens means that the expectation for the purchases will be higher. Whether they do that or not is a different story. But right now, the expectations are way different. So at this point, I'm happy with how the season has progressed so far. And I'm very much looking forward to how the playoffs go for us. I believe in this team. And I believe that we can get the job done this year domestically. And I look forward to seeing what the club does to build from this in the summer. Now, guys, I'm going to do something separate for those of you that care about the Greek national team. I'm not going to do it here in this segment, but in the next day or so, you can look for a brief preview, maybe even post match if I have time for it for the national team since we're in the international break. But it's really exciting times, man, to be an Olympiacos fan. So thank you everyone for listening. I'm Adi. This is Thros International. In a couple of days from the time of recording, Greece is going to be playing against Scotland. So check that out. We also have giveaways, more giveaways coming. So check out our socials as well, and for a chance to win some great giveaways. We've done some great ones already. We've had a lot of really cool giveaways. Lamps, the custom lamps. We've had jerseys, basketball jerseys, football jerseys, and there's more stuff coming for sure. So keep an eye out. Look for a chance to win some more cool gear, and check out the latest content that's coming up. So thank you guys again, and we will see you next time.